Hey everyone, welcome back to the video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Champions Paris power ranking. It's going to go through all 16 teams, rank them into these tiers, give a little background on how they got here, and rank them based on how I think they will do at the event. So let me know what you guys think of this video in the comments below. Also go check out my Twitter and my Discord. Links are in the description. I'll talk about whatever like Valorant news is going on at the time, especially with the off season coming up. I feel like that's going to be where a majority of my content will be outside of my rebuild series, which I've just uploaded my Vitality rebuild. So you can go check out that, my Furia rebuild, and my Team Secret rebuild, which are all up on my channel as my last 3 videos. So you can go check those out if you're interested to see what I would do with each of those rosters. You can also go check out my Twitch, link is in the description, and my TikTok. I post on both of those occasionally or stream on my Twitch. I've been doing VOD reviews leading up to Champions. The streams might get a little less frequent considering there's less games to VOD review, but also I'll probably be doing some like streams, just doing like some scouting for my rebuild series and whatnot. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go check that out as well. Also, I will be posting a post on my community tab and on my Discord asking for your guys' hot takes for VCT Champions Paris. So if you want to have a chance at being featured in a video, that will be coming up, probably my next video after this one. Then you can go check those out and comment and reply to that kind of stuff. So go check those out as well. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. All right, so we'll start with the bottom of the list. And my number 16 team heading into Champions will be DRG. I don't feel great about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I do actually like this team quite a bit. I think the bottom teams at this champs are far better than the bottom teams at any tournament ever, which made these power rankings a little bit more difficult because it feels bad to have any of these teams at 16. But it did feel kind of right to have DRG here just because I feel the least confident that they're going to be good. I do like a lot of the individuals on this team. Spirit, Akumen, and Fukashu are all very good, despite Akumen not being very flexible. I think they overall have good like fundamentals, like trading and everything like that. These players can clutch and everything like that. Like they are good. They can fight together. They have decent ideas within the comps they play, but that is the issue. It's their comps on multiple of these maps. I think it's Bind, Corrode, and Lotus. I really don't like their comps at all, and they really frustrate me. Like, yeah, Lotus, they play the double duelist comp, which is pretty normal. Like, they play it with a Cypher, though, and they also play it with Breach instead of Fade, which makes no sense to me. Corrode, they play double smokes, but it's Omen Clove, and then they play solo Gecko with a Cypher, which I don't like any of that outside of their Yoru on Spirit, who actually plays pretty well on that map and has a good idea of what he's doing. And then, what was the other map that I said? Bind? Let me make sure I have the comp in front of me so I don't fuck it up. It was against XLG that they played it, yeah. Where they played Neon Yoru, which in and of itself is bad. Like, the Yoru's fine, but I don't love it with the Neon. And then Solo Gecko with Astra as well. And then Vise, which is fine. I don't mind the Vise. But, like, those comps just don't make any sense. I think the comps on the rest of their maps are actually fine. Like, they play the double duelist on Sunset and whatnot. But, yeah, they went on a pretty big run during playoffs, being, like, not one of the top seeds, but making it through the upper bracket into the grand finals immediately. But then they did lose to BLG overall. So this team's map pool is a little bit concerning, but I think they will be an interesting team to watch and could absolutely upset one of the top teams, maybe playing under what they are expected to be playing like. Then I have Giant X as my other team, or as another team in this tier, number 15. Again, like, this team is a team that I don't dislike. I really like this team heading into this split. Now, was it a team that I thought would make champs at all? Absolutely not. But I thought they could make playoffs and maybe win a playoff game or something like that. Not make it to champs at all, but like look like they maybe could have been on some kind of upwards trajectory heading into next year. But they did make it to champs, and they still do have that upward trajectory. They have a lot of new, like, younger players that can develop at this tournament. Like, this is really big for this team. But, like, They play good fundamental Valorant. They play pretty basic comps. Like they play a lot of just the basic, boring like Sova Breach comps on a lot of maps. Like they play it on Sunset and Ascent. They play the KO Sova on Ascent. The like old meta, like 2023 stuff, and stuff like that. Bind is where they get a little bit funky, playing the solo Gecko with the Deadlock and Astra with Raise Viper. Like, which I don't think is that great, but it's not terrible. Like they actually play it well, so it makes some sense. Uh, like Icebox, they play the double flashes with the KO Gecko. Like it's a lot of basic, boring stuff, which I think limits their ceiling a little bit. And I don't think this team has a ton of glaring weaknesses outside of maybe playing these Flash Initiator like breach comps that I think are a bit outdated. But they don't have too many glaring weaknesses either. And I think if they play with the level of confidence that they had, uh, like specifically against BBL and Navi in playoffs, I think they could legitimately upset any team. I just have high, like massive doubts that they'll be playing that confident as a new team at an international level. Having, I think, only Cloud on this team having made an international before. I think that's true, yeah, because Cloud made Champs 23. Obviously, he played at Lock-In, but I don't think any of these other players actually made it to an international. So I'm not like huge on this team, but I'm also like not a big doubter of Giants. I think having them 15th makes me look like a team or look like somebody that doesn't like how they played at all, and I actually have been fairly impressed with them. So moving on to our number 14 team, and a team that I think people have were heading into this were expecting to be like number 16, probably the worst team at this event in my opinion, which is MIBR. I mean, this team was incredible in stage one. Like they were so good. I think with the individuals turning up specifically, like Cortez, I think Genom and Artscene specifically recently have not been as good, as well as Verno in stage two specifically. But I think if the individuals turn up, this team can actually be good. And I would bet on an Osbos like vintage champs performance that gets them at least a win somewhere against some team. Don't know exactly who, but I think he will be good. I also think Cortez will be good. Cortesia, if you're not America's watcher, he's their Sentinel player. He's very good. I think Genom has been like not great in terms of the killing people department, but has been pretty fine. Like not terrible whatsoever. And then Artscene, I don't really expect to see a huge jump from. Verno, if Artscene goes back to calling like a lot, I think Verno could maybe take a big jump. But yeah, like between like switching up the callers, which is a question for me, I don't think this team's calling will be very good, which is why they are still in this D tier, and I don't think that they're going to go very deep. There's just a lot of like weird stuff around this team, but I do just believe in Ospas, and that's really why they're ranked 14th. The other thing with this team is that their best map, Icebox, which they are by far the best team in the world on, is going out of the pool. So that's going to be pretty hard for them. But when Ospas was with Lev, they were very good at Abyss, which I think is kind of like I don't want to say it's just a better version of Icebox, but it is. It's just Icebox, but not quite as bad with the certain things. So I think they should be good on that map, but maybe not as good as they were on Icebox. Then our last team in this D tier is DRX. They were probably the fourth best team in Pacific throughout the whole season, but at this point, I think you could argue maybe like one or two teams were over them. Definitely Talon, I think most people would argue. I wouldn't fully disagree with that. And then it's like probably I would have rather Genji made it than them, at least to champions. Like I think they were probably the fifth or sixth best team in Pacific at the end of stage two. But for the whole season, I think they do deserve to make it as they went to Masters Bangkok and performed decently there. Hopefully they don't make too many changes to their comps. Like I think they need to change some stuff up, probably do some new stuff. But like if you get freeing more on these Sentinel roles, where he's been a little bit better, like the Viper Sentinel stuff, I think he's a lot better at that. I think Hyunmin and Flashback are two very young, like interesting young players for this team. Obviously, Mako is very good. I think this team will be fine. They probably will win a game. Will I mean, there's a good chance that they make playoffs even, just because it's DRX at an international event, so they're gonna do decently well in groups. And I think some of these teams above them will probably perform worse than I'm expecting, and they'll climb the rankings mainly because of that, if that makes sense. So overall, I'm not huge on DRX, but I think they could go like maybe to playoffs. I think their group is not the most difficult one, and if EDG and NRG don't perform maybe to the level of some people's expectations, I think you could see them making it out of playoffs alongside Team Liquid. All right, now at number 12, I have EDG. I ranked them, I think 10th going into champs last year, but did not feel this bad about them heading into it. Like I just thought, yeah, this team looks kind of normal, like it's not like anything special or anything like that. I didn't like have a ton of negatives about them. I just kind of was not expecting them to turn up and have all the players hitting like they did at champs. So that is still a possibility for this team. I think the reason that they are in this tier and not in the D tier is just because they have Shishu, Kang, like those kind of players that could genuinely wake up and win you tournaments by being as good as they are. Like that's how good these two players are. Is that either of them could solo get this team out of groups? I think even if the rest of the team is not hitting. The issues I have with this team though is just the general level of coordination. I think they just can't play defense to save their lives outside of Corrode and Sunset. And Corrode, like that map is defense sided, and they do worse than you would generally expect. So that's not great. I think all these things lead into them not being able to play defense, but like they attempt hero plays all the time. They don't break util for each other, which was a big thing that I noticed specifically on Bind, where like they were getting scanned by Fade Haunts so much while other people were flooding through to try to help the person anchoring, and nobody just broke the util for them. So that was not great for me. I did not like that. And like I don't know, it's just like general coordination stuff. Like they'll be in a 2v3 or what, or a 3v2 or whatever. There was one on Haven I specifically remember where the bomb was planted on a normal spot, everything. There were two people short. Kong was long, and just randomly, not even off a tap, Kong. I don't even know if he flashed through the smoke on Yoru, but he just dry peeked through the smoke, died, and then the other two players were left in a 2v2 and they lost, which was just extremely frustrating. But that also like kind of leads into another thing with the Kang Yoru stuff. I actually liked it. I liked the Yoru quite a bit more than I was expecting. I thought I was going to be really disappointed in it. It's not like amazing Yoru gameplay. I won't lie. It's probably to the level of maybe like not something like at the beginning of the year, but maybe like something when he started ramping up a little bit more to being better at Yoru. Like I don't like late in stage one regular season something on Yoru, if that makes sense. It wasn't like the worst Yoru I've ever seen. It wasn't Ospas levels of it, but it wasn't good either, or it wasn't like amazing either. So that could improve. That could make this team a lot better as well. But you just need to see the individuals hitting in form. I think nobody's a fine caller. It's not like it's a big issue for them. I think Jenny is a lot better than he was before. And Smoggy, I've always thought is a tad overrated, personally. But I think he can kind of do enough. Maybe, I mean, he's another player that, like, when he is popping and, like, playing really well at his best, he can genuinely win you a tournament. So, like, if you get Smoggy, Shishu, Kong all playing well at the same time, I think this team could go on some kind of run. I just I don't really see it. You haven't seen them hit all at the same time since champs last year, but maybe they just lock in for champs. So our other team here is another Chinese team in XLG, and I think they're the exact opposite. This team plays really fundamentally good Valorant. I like their comps, their overall calling, their ideas, like their set plays, like all that stuff. I actually think is really nice. They're very creative. they're bringing out like this. I'm sure everybody saw the Lotus comp that they were running, the Triple Sentinel, playing. I think it was Sage, Cypher, Deadlock, and then Fade Omen. I actually really like that comp. I didn't think it was bad by any means. Obviously, it's a little surprisingly attack sided with that comp. I think they could do some better things on defense with taking a rubble and whatnot. But overall, like they can make improvements in their map pool and like their comps and stuff like that. But overall, like it wasn't bad. The one issue that I had with playoffs is that they never got to play Haven, which is their best map, in my opinion. They were 4-0 on it during the regular season, and they didn't pick it the one chance that they had to. So that was kind of odd to me. But yeah, the main thing with this team is they need the individuals to hit. If they can hit like they were in stage one, if you can get Raga, who I don't have any doubts will be hitting. I think Raga will be very good at this event. If you can get Happy Way, even Viva, I think is a big one. If Viva can hit like he was during stage one, I think this team could genuinely be like a top 4 contender for this tournament. But I'm not a big believer in Viva, No Man, and Coconut specifically to pop off to the level that they need to for this team to actually get there. But I think it is actually more likely that XLG goes deep at this tournament because even if EDG's individuals are hitting, I think their ideas, their comps, all that stuff is a little bit worse than XLG and maybe won't be able to get them as far as maybe just their individuals do. But also, actually, the other thing that I forgot to mention with EDG is their permaban and Icebox is going out, and Abyss is coming in, which was one of their best maps back at Champs last year. So you could see maybe that making a big difference for EDG as well, and I wouldn't really blame you. But moving on from XLG and the Chinese teams in this tier, on to NRG, who I have as our last team in this tier. I mean, this is arguably the best defense side team in the world. Like, they are unbelievable. They're so active around the map. They re-clear spaces so well. Their retakes are really nice. Their, like, util usage in general, like, their Lotus defense side, I think, is the best in the world. Just with like the double Odin stuff that they're bringing out on that map with Brock and Sam, I think is very good. And like the attack side for this team, on the flip side, they've had struggles all split with it, and I think they struggled a little bit against G2 as well in the final with it. But when they played Sen, it was unbelievable. So if you get that game from Ethan as a caller again, I think you could see this team genuinely being one of the best teams at this tournament. I just don't think it's going to stick, in my opinion. I think it'll be maybe somewhere in between that and what you saw all split. And yeah, like I think playing one of the top teams at this tournament, and especially one of the top callers, whether it be G2 or Fnatic, or even like a Paper Rex team, that's one of the top teams of this tournament. I think you could see like a super one-sided team kind of get exposed a little bit for that. So I do have concerns with that, but I do like the individuals on this team as well. I think Mata, Ethan, Brock are all very good. I think Scuba has his big moments as well. Like I think Scuba, like round to round, isn't quite as impactful as your Mata, Ethan, and Brock, but I think his like big clutch moments are arguably the best out of those players. And I think Sam is maybe not the best player on this team. Like I'd say he is the worst individual on this team, but he's a very good supportive smokes player. His util usage is very good, all that kind of stuff, and he's just extremely useful for like the vibes and stuff like that as well. So NRG, like I like a lot of the aspects of this team. There's just one glaring weakness with them that you're not sure if it'll get better. Also, they do have some young players new to the international scene that I don't know if they're going to perform on their first round through. But they also have Ethan in the team to help, Sam in the team to help as well, who have both been to multiple international events. So that should help them quite a bit with that. So now onto the B tier and my number 9 team, which, to be fair, I haven't looked at really anybody's power rankings throughout this like lead up to Paris yet. But maybe my hottest take here is I have Team Heretics at number 9. They're not a top half team for me. They are one of the more complicated teams to rank though. The issue that I have with this team is this is not even close to the same Heretics as 2024. The calling is not very good, I don't think, from Boo. The meta read is bad. Or not bad. I don't think that's really fair to them. I don't love their read on the meta. Is maybe a more fair way to put that. I don't think the individuals are as good, and they've had insanely bad performances at multiple points during the year. The best that they've been, there have been 2 points in the year where they have been the best, and it's the end of both group stages in EMEA. When they go into international events, Tokyo, really bad. Kickoff was really bad for them after like the first couple of games. Um, what was the other one? Yeah, EMEA playoffs, duh, where they went out 0-2 as well. Which, I mean, part of that wasn't like necessarily the calling being bad or like being put in bad spots by Boo. I think maybe the calling being bad was like saying that the calling is bad is like my first point was maybe a little too harsh. But like when you look across this roster, you just it doesn't feel like the same like it factor as last year. Like Mini Boo I think has been solid this year, not great. Woot I've been really up and down on this year. Rien's I think has been very solid all year. He's the one player that I like. I feel like I've deemed myself a Heretics hater at this point. Rien's is my by far my favorite player on this team. I love Rien's. Boo, I don't think has been a very good individual this year. This year at any point, and wasn't really that great last year, so that's not really relevant. But Benji, I think has had the biggest fall off. Even though I do quite like Benji as well as a player, like I do enjoy watching him play well. But yeah, he's just not been the same player this year. And I think that's the biggest thing with this team. They do struggle in these late round scenarios as well, like losing clutches and stuff like that. That was a big thing for them in the EMEA playoffs specifically. And yeah, they just like this team's ability to get punched and in the face and then come back from that is so bad. Like they genuinely cannot respond once something bad happens to them. So you don't like to see that with a team that's supposed to be contending for international events. So I don't know. I don't really have a ton to say about this team because their map pool isn't bad, I don't think. Their best map, or their worst map, sorry, Icebox, is leaving the pool. They are terrible at that map. It's going out now. And then you're going to get Abyss, which I think was okay for them. Not like amazing, but it was a good map for them overall. You're going to get that back in the pool. Just albeit probably a different meta, to be fair. But it replaces a map that you probably wouldn't want to play with a map that you're okay with playing for them. So I'm not entirely against the idea of Heretics being a higher up team at this event, and I'm not going to fully tank them, even though I'm not sure if I would pick them to win a game in their group. We'll get to that when I get to the Pick'ems video. You'll see if I end up deciding to let them go through or not. If I guess in my Pick'ems, it just entirely depends on how I feel on the day when I pick it. I'm still deciding if I want to do that, but yeah, like I just think if this team loses a game, they're gonna crumble, and before that, they could actually be very good. I think they could win their opening game realistically against G2. It's a possibility. I just I'm done believing in this team. I've been done believing in this team. Like even when they were top of their group in EMEA, I think the highest I ever had them was third in my EMEA power rank, or not third, sorry, second. I think I just bumped them up over Liquid because Liquid had a really bad week one week, and then I immediately switched it back. So yeah, I'm not a believer in Heretics. We'll leave it there. Then our next team, T1. I think they've been fine in Pacific. I'm not like I don't know. Another team that I've been a little bit down on throughout the season, but this team has firepower. They have really good individuals. You got Buzz, you got Izu, you have Meteor, who I love. I love Izu specifically. I think he's amazing for this team. He's a great flex player. I think Buzz and Meteor are very solid players, maybe a touch overrated on both of them, but I like them. I think Stacks is going to give you good enough calling at champs. It's not maybe going to be enough to get you over the line to win at a not 8 team tournament, but I think it'll do enough to get you deep in the tournament. I think DH is a bit of a question mark. Not because of how he's played, but because how he might play. I think it's just it depends on how he turns up at an international level. If he's a good supportive player and he's fragging out like he was in EMEA in Pacific, I think you could see this team go fairly deep. I think I have less questions about them than I do Heretics. Overall, their map pool, I wasn't like wildly impressed by any of their maps outside of really Sunset. And then the other two maps that I thought were like pretty good for them were Lotus and Haven, but they had losing records on both of those, so not sure there. And then also like Abyss is coming in for Icebox, which won't really do anything for them in my opinion. You have it was their permaban before Abyss when it was in the pool, and it'll probably be their permaban again. Icebox is their permaban right now, so it'll just be permaban for them probably, and just keep practicing the other maps. They've had some interesting ideas. They're really leaning into like the Yoru chamber stuff, which I don't think is fully Izu's strength playing the Yoru on a bunch of maps, but whatever. Like, it's fine. I don't really care. Like, I really liked when he was playing like the secondary Yoru duelist and opping at the beginning of the year. But that's I don't know. It's fine. I'm not like fully against it. So I think this team has upside. If their individuals are hitting, they can realistically beat anybody at this tournament. I just don't know how many games you're going to get that out of this team for this tournament overall. Then our next team, Billy, the last Chinese team. They will be the first region to have all 4 teams revealed here. I think they're solid. I don't have a ton of glaring weaknesses with BLG. I like a lot of the players on their roster. YZ I think is really good. I think Rushia specifically really impressed me. Some people were really high on him coming into Masters Toronto, which I really did not get. But after watching him in stage 2, oh my god, he's good. He might be the best player on this team. I think Neff is a good caller individually, not fully there. And I think K Knight and Levius are fine. Like they're fine players. I was really high on K Knight at one point, but not as much anymore. And yeah, like their map pool was solid. I don't really remember how good they were on Abyss because I don't think I really watched too much of them playing Abyss back in the day. If I'm gonna be honest. But like their Haven is decent. Or their Lotus is really good. I think they're one of the better teams on Lotus in this tournament. I think they could pretty much beat anybody on that. And then like Sunset, Corrode, Ascent are all okay on Bind. I don't think any of the Chinese teams are very good at outside of XLG. And yeah, like they're solid. They struggle in some like clutch scenarios in terms of like somebody doing something stupid here and there, but overall they look pretty decent. Like I think this team will beat the teams that they're better than, but maybe struggle to beat the teams like in their own tier and above. Like I think they'll like I would feel confident picking them over NRG, XLG, EDG, DRX, MIBR, Giants, and DRG. But T1 Heretics, I'd be a little iffy on, and then the rest of the teams, I would definitely pick every team that is still yet to be ranked above BLG. So yeah, I don't think they have a ton of upside at this tournament, but they could make playoffs, maybe win a game there, get an upset or something like that, and then feel good about their champs run. I think I would feel good about that for BLG. But as for China as a region, I think you'd want one of the teams below them to maybe hit their upside at this tournament and be very good. All right, now onto the A tier. I think these are teams that I would genuinely expect to contend for a title. Mostly, at least, I think there's one team that I think I am not expecting to do that, but will go fairly deep in the tournament. But we'll start with RRQ, who might be a post-hype sleeper, which, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's basically like a team gets super hyped up, like they were at Toronto, doesn't do very well. Like this is an example because it's a term that I hear like in like NFL content and whatnot, where like a team doesn't do well the year that they're supposed to do really well, and then the next year they come back and maybe make some more additions or changes, and then are actually really good the next year. And I think RRQ could be that at this event. I'm not 100% sure because they could just choke again like they did at Masters Toronto. But also, I think some of that was their bad read on the new meta at Toronto, and then coming back into stage two, I think they've looked a lot better. I really like their read on the new meta. I think they're not playing anything like super. I mean, yeah, they are actually playing things super crazy. They're playing a lot of Waylay. Like, it's I think their Waylay comps are really good. They're leaning into it on a ton of maps. I think Jemkin's getting a lot more experience on it than most people are, and he looks like he's a lot more comfortable playing the agent than really anybody else has. So that's been a really big thing with this team is the Waylay specifically on Corrode. I think is really good. I think on Bind it's been not very great. I don't remember what other maps they run it on. No, they don't run it on Lotus. They don't run it on Ascent. They run it on Haven? No, that's Paper X that do that. What was the other map that they run it on? Sunset. Sunset, it does look pretty good. Playing the breach fade with it, really heavily setting up Jemkin. I think that's really good. Pairing the stuns with the slows from the Waylay. Like, I think that's really fun with this team. I think the fundamentals are still there for or from stage one. I think all like their game plans and like cool ideas, like outside of the comps, like just in game, crazy guy coming up with something cool in the moment, I think is also very good for this team. And I think again, they could be one of those teams where like they don't perform well at an international event due to like inexperience and stuff like that, and then come back with the other one with experience to be one of the best teams in the world. I think you could see that from RRQ. But we just have to. They have to prove it before I rank them inside the top five here. The next team, and the team that I referred to at the beginning of this tier, where I don't think they're gonna contend for a win, but I think they'll be like top, like 5, 6, or like 4, 5, 6 somewhere in there, and that's Sentinels. I mean, they've just been a pretty good team internationally all year. They, I think they got seventh, eighth at Bangkok, which wasn't like bad, but I mean, they played pretty poorly at that event, but like they looked good in kickoff and everything like that, and were are like definitely deserved to be there. I guess is my point. Then comes Toronto, where they beat a bunch of the Chinese teams, but then once they play some better competition, they kind of go out. I think once this team plays the best teams in the world, they're gonna lose, and once they lose, they're gonna crumble. That's kind of the thing with them. So when you're playing like Giants in the opening round, I think you're fine, and then when you're gonna play either them or XLG again, unless you get that super confident Giants that I talked about at the beginning, I think Sen should be good to go through to groups, even if they lose to, or through to playoffs, even if they lose to Paper X. But once you get into playoffs and you're playing like your Fanatics, your RRQs, your uh, G2s, your Liquids, your Paper X's, like teams like that in playoffs are going to be a real struggle for Sentinels. So, I mean, I like the individuals on this team. I like Zekin, Narrate, and Bang. They're all very good. I think like specifically Zekin is really good. I think Narrate's had a lot better of a stage two than Bang has, but Bang like for overall on the year, I think Bang has been incredible for them. So if he can return to form a little bit, that's fine. I think John's calling has been a little bit worse than it was like last year. If you haven't been paying a ton of attention to Americas, but it's still good. He's still calling a good game, and I just think this team isn't one that's going to surprise you too much unless it's like playing really badly in a big game. The other note you have with this team is their map pool. Their Corrode is probably the best in the world. Like, I don't think I've seen a team play Corrode too much better than Sen has at any point, outside of their one game against NRG where they played really poorly. And then Lotus, I think, is also very good. Again, outside of that game against NRG where they played really poorly. So this team will occasionally just give you a game where they completely shit the bed and are not very good. And it's their consistency that needs to get better and their map pool that needs to get better. So when you have Icebox going out for Abyss as well with this team's map pool, it's kind of like iffy because they were okay at Abyss at the beginning of the year. And they've been okay on Icebox a few times throughout the year as well. So it's not like a really big deal either way. So yeah, like I'm not huge on Sen, but I think they'll be fine and they'll be a good team that makes playoffs at the very least and will give you probably a bad game during playoffs at some point and make you really angry as a Sen fan. And then they get eliminated kind of like that. So, yeah. Like it's not the end of the world for Sentinels, but like if you're this org, you're really expecting to be at like the tippity top of champs. Then onto our next team, which is, I have to make sure I double check and put it in the right order, Team Liquid, who I think have been one of the more impressive teams in Stage 2 since adding Trex into the team, but they're just a little bit inconsistent, honestly. Like, I think their map pool is fine. I don't really have too many issues with it outside of, like, I don't think their Corrode or Icebox are very good, but Icebox is going out. Abyss is coming in, which they were one of the best Abyss teams in the world when it was in the last time. So that should be interesting for them. I think that'll be a pretty big upgrade as well. And like this team's other international performances, they were a young team coming to their first international event at the first one of the year. They made a roster change. They made two roster changes since then, to be fair, for the same slot both times. But you haven't actually gotten to see their full roster at an international event this year because they didn't get to play with Nats at Toronto outside of their last game, which then they played with Penny a little bit, and it was kind of weird. Um, but I think if you get Nats and Kiko in form, are genuinely looking like two of the best players in the world right now. I think Nats had some like not as great games during the group stage, but I think during playoffs he really turned up and was genuinely again one of those best players in the world. Um, and yeah, I think like this team is genuinely incredible. If they can be consistent for a whole run through champs, I think they can genuinely win. I feel really good about that for them. It's just you got to see them be consistent. It's really all it is. Like I think they can beat pretty much every team below them just strictly based on individual firepower with Nats, Kiko, and even Trex. I think I've kind of snubbed from being in that top conversation, but I don't think he's like necessarily in the same tier of player as Nats and Kiko because those are like genuinely like top 5 best player in the world conversations. I think Trex is a bit below that, but still one of the best players on this team. And then Patty and Camo, I think also play pretty well around each other and are also very good on this team. So yeah, I feel really good about Liquid. It's just they need to be more consistent. And then Fnatic, I have as my last team in this A tier. Also, I don't know why with this tier list, some of the logos are a lot bigger. Like the RRQ and Fnatic logos are massive, and the Paper X one is also huge. But I'm just not concerned about this team's stage 2 form. I am concerned about their map pool, but like in terms of how they played, they're fucking exhausted, guys. Like they've played so much throughout this year and they were already qualified for champs. They didn't fucking care. Like you could genuinely tell the second they were qualified for champs, they did not give a fuck at all. So, as long as they bring in new comps and ideas, revamp their map pool a little bit, maybe play like genuinely get good at one of, I mean, probably two, we'll say two of Sunset, Haven, Ascent, and Abyss, and then they ban one of them permanently, play their Lotus better. I think their game against Giants wasn't very good, and their loss to Carmine Core I think was a little bit fluky as well on that map. So like, but I think their Icebox was good, and that won't matter for this tournament. But their Corrode and their Bind were also pretty good. So I think if you get like one or two of Ascent, Haven, Sunset, and Abyss to a good level, I think this team's at a really good spot and should be good, especially with some of the best players in the world on this team. You got Kayak, you have Alpha Year, you have Chronicle, you even have Crashies playing well at times. Like this team made the Toronto finals, guys. Like, let's get real. So, and I mean, also like if you're saying, oh well, G2 didn't play super poorly during stage 2, or Sen didn't play super poorly during stage 2, like those are just the two that came to mind instantly. Like, yeah, but G2 is trying to defend a three-peat in Americas, and we're also playing with a sub, so they were trying to like maybe test some new stuff out, and they're just better than every Americas team. And I think Sen is a similar way where they were just way better than every other team in Americas and just kind of coasted their way through anyways. So Yeah, I'm not concerned about Fnatic whatsoever. So then our top two teams are PaperX and G2. I have PaperX at number 1, G2 at number 2. G2, I mean, they've been the best team throughout the whole year, in my opinion. Like when you take from kickoff to now, who has been the best team? I think it's been G2. Their map pool is really good. I like their Ascent. I like their Bind. Despite it being a little bit defense sided, I think I like their Bind. I like their Haven. I like their Lotus. I like their Sunset. I like all of them. Specifically their Sunset, I think is really cool with the Sage Chamber comp. I really like that. Um, they did not play Icebox at all. They really avoided that map. Now they're playing Abyss, or now they get Abyss in there, which was a good map for them before. It wasn't great, but it was good. The one concern I have with them is Corrode, but they could just ban that and play Abyss heading into this tournament. So they're in a really good spot to be one of the best teams in the world. Plus, they were coasting through Americas with Bebe in their roster. Like, genuinely, like, I don't want to say developed him, but like he got better throughout the split for this team. And then they're adding Leaf in instead, who is one of the best players in the world. He's genuinely incredible. Probably the best player in Americas, in my opinion. And yeah, he's amazing. He'll be in this team. He'll be playing a ton of chamber for them, being a really good op player and everything like that. I think this team could genuinely win the tournament. Like, if it weren't for PaperX, I would pick them 100%. But PaperX, I think they're just such a cool team. Like, they're so good. They're the best team in the world on Bind, in my opinion. Their Lotus is really good. I think their Haven is pretty cool. Like, it's a very interesting and like weird idea that you don't see any other teams play with the double TPs and I mean even triple TP if you count the Omen. I think their Sunset's pretty good. Their Ascent, I'm not sure. I think that's one that they're going to float and let teams pick into them so they can play that super defense-sided comp that they brought out against RRQ and just kind of win 10 or 11 rounds on defense every time, which will make teams afraid to pick Ascent and be a better map for them in their map pool just because of that. I think they'll probably ban Abyss or Corrode. They'll pick one of those that'll be bad. I think it is a bit of a disadvantage to lose Icebox, but their players are in such good form right now that I can't really blame them for that. So, or I don't really care too much about that. Like if they pick one of the maps, bracket until champs, I think they're going to be fine. So, yeah, these will be my power rankings for champions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.